Hello everyone, today I just wanted to show you guys how I make my exterior shots cinematic without any sort of lights, without any sort of diffusion. It's all camera and character positioning, camera settings and composition tricks as well. I do use one accessory that I will explain later in the video. I can't show it to you now because I'm actually using it at the moment, but it's called an ND filter and I will explain how I use that and why I use it later on in the video. So the way I'm going to do this video is I'm going to show you shot examples and then explain all the different techniques I use to get the shot, and also it will all align with what I said in the beginning. Okay, the first one is a simple nature shot, as you can see here. What I wanted for this shot is a very gladiator-esque cinematic kind of dreamy feel. And as you can see here, the sun is behind the subject, which is this grass plant. I don't know exactly what it is. And that's the first thing. You want to position the subject in front of the light source, and consequently you want to shoot against the light. So you want to shoot against the sun. The sun should be behind your subject, or at least it should be at an angle, never directly behind the camera going towards the subject. And the reason why is because this makes everything flat and removes any sort of contrast, any sort of shape, any sort of layers in your shot. So as you can see, there are a few layers. There's the dark shape of the inner part of the plant. There's the beautiful halo effect, kind of connecting the plant with the light source, which is the sunset over here. You should only shoot at times where the sun is gentle. So for example, the best time to shoot, in my opinion, is golden hour, which is where the sun is just about to set. As you can see here, it lends this beautiful golden soft look. That is because when the sun is setting, it's at its softest and it looks the most aesthetically pleasing with that golden look. If you can, or if it lends well to your subject and your story, you do want to shoot at a shallower depth of field. So on this shot in particular, I shot at f2.8. So as you can see here, it easily adds depth to your shot because the subject is clearly in focus, and then we also have the blur in the background. Of course, you can see I kind of paused at a bad moment because there was quite windy that day, so the reeds or the grass was kind of waving around, so it's slightly blurry, but you can kind of still see the subject, and that blur combined with that beautiful light does lend to this cinematic feel. When you set your lens and your camera to a shallow depth of field, you are letting in way more light, which could lead to your camera being overexposed or your shot being overexposed. And most likely when you're shooting outside, even in golden hour, you will overexpose your shot if you introduce more depth of field. So what I do and what many other cinematographers do is we use an attachment on our lens called an ND filter, or neutral density filter. So ND filters basically remove or block light coming through your lens, and you want to pair that when shooting in a shallower depth of field. You want to make your overall frame very cohesive and not too busy, because there's many things outside that kind of lends to a shot feeling very unbalanced, even if you use certain elements or techniques from filmmaking, it might not lend to a good shot. So as you can see here, the colors are all very cohesive, very rustic, very brown, and there's clearly layers. As you can see, the sun is clearly coming from an angle. It's not directly from behind. As you can see, you can't really see the light source, but the reason why it works is because we have this shadow, and then we have the highlight on my head over here, and then we have the shot continuing. So there's layers. There's the shadow in the foreground, there's the slight outline of me highlighted from the sun, and also it combines the shallow depth of field, as I mentioned before, with me being in focus, the foreground clearly being blurred, the midground, which is me in focus, and the blur falling off in the background. As you can see, it's very busy. There's trees, leaves. Even though there's like a leading line, the light is quite harsh. There's no soft light. I shot this way too early in the day, so you can see there's no soft, colorful light. It's all very flat, white, harsh, midday light. You can normally still kind of get a cinematic look if you are shooting outside in harsh light, but then you're gonna have to make sure that your composition and the elements in your frame are kind of cohesive and going together to make a shot that works. You can see it doesn't really happen here. There's way too many things happening. There's a wall here that is quite textured. There's these broken windows. Me as a subject, I'm kind of standing out, but in a bad way, because I'm kind of very contrasty. There's no real attention on me. The background is way too busy. There's like leaves and branches everywhere. The floor is covered in weeds and flowers. So Overall, the shot isn't very pleasing to look at. There is a leading line with this building leading towards me, but overall the lighting is not good. There's not a lot of separation, there's not a lot of composition or even depth of field to help you with that. You don't really need depth of field if you have composition, if you have leading lines, if you have good light. You don't need a very shallow depth of field. You don't need a lens that can give you shallow depth of field. As you can see here, this is all quite busy and not very cinematic. This shot could have easily been a bit too busy, but as you can see, you can still clearly see the subject, and that is because I'm using frame within a frame and I'm using leading lines. As you can see here, these broken walls here are kind of framing me as a subject, and also the beams on the roof are clearly leading towards me as a subject, and then I'm kind of contrasting with the white walls in the back. And then you can also see I'm not totally in shadow, I am lit, but this one looks way better because it's way less busy, it's way more concentrated on the subject. Everything kind of enhances the subject, and that's what leads to this kind of shot. As you can see here, here's another example of frame within a frame. The beams or the wooden poles of the park are kind of surrounding me as a subject, and then there's also the cohesive grade and the cohesive look of all the light and all the colors in the frame. And also, as you can see here, here's the example of the light being at an angle. I'm not totally in shadow, I'm kind of side lit, and then the side of my body that's mainly in the frame is in shadow, and that's called shooting shadow side, which I should have mentioned earlier. The side of your subject that's kind of facing the frame should be in shadow, and then leading off it should go into light, which kind of gives this feeling of depth. Even if you have the sun and you can't really control where the sun is, you can control where you put your subject and where you put your camera. And how you should frame and place your subject is shadow side. As you can see here, I am using almost full-on silhouette lighting. I'm almost fully in shadow. You can see this beautiful spray of the waves catching the light. This only happens because all the elements are backlit. I'm backlit, so it has this beautiful shaping effect on me. The sun is kind of leaking through my shoulder, which I did on purpose. I didn't want to totally block the light. So you can see this beautiful, almost haloing, soft glow effect from the sun. I kind of wanted the viewer to feel part of my experience because I'm also like getting hit with the sun, so I kind of wanted you guys viewing to kind of get hit with a bit of the sun. And as you can see, because the water spray from the waves is backlit, it's also beautifully highlighted. As you can see here, everything is kind of washed in this beautiful golden feel. And if you contrast this with that busy, overly complicated, badly lit shot that I showed you before, this one is way simpler. This one only has the waves, some rocks, me as a subject, a very clean horizon line, and the rocks would maybe make it busy, but then they're not even lit, they're kind of silhouetted along with me, so they kind of blend into my shape. Here's another example of silhouette lighting. You can clearly see me in the frame surrounded by this beautiful sunset. I kind of really prefer golden hour, but you could also shoot early in the morning. I just don't have any examples personally from my side, but in the morning as well, the sun is quite soft. Only there you'll get more of a blue light, hence the name blue hour. Another very cool element, especially if you are shooting near an ocean or a river, or if you are shooting after a rainy day, is you want to look for reflections. Instead of shooting just the sunset on the water, I kind of went low with my camera. I got the reflection of the sunset on the wet sand paired with the sunset. So as you can see, overall it adds way more texture and way more of a cinematic feel to your frame. There are three elements that I kind of want to combine together into one more example for you guys, and that is simplicity, contrast, and unique camera angles. As you can see, everything in the frame really contrasts with each other. There's the white pants, there's the bright red jacket, and that is placed against this stark blue background. So a lot of the times having a simple shot kind of enhances your subject. And as you can see here, the fact that there's nothing in the sky besides some wispy clouds, then you have me, which as you can see has this bright outfit on. It kind of allows me to stand out, and it really adds to like a striking sort of frame. If you can't control the light, if you can't control your depth of field, then you want to control what is in your composition. And for me, I chose to remove things from my composition. I chose to have a lot of empty dead space and then really draw the viewer's eye to me in the corner. So it's the combination of this weird camera angle paired with the poppy contrasty colors and the simplicity of the frame. It all comes together to make something that looks like this. And that's about it. I hope you guys gained something from watching this video, or at least got some entertainment out of it. I really hope I didn't miss any elements, but I'm pretty sure that's everything that I use, or all the techniques that I use when I go outside to shoot shots for my short films or any sort of cinematic project. Yeah, thank you.